Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, boys and girls. So it's time to learn about NTP, Syslog, and SNMP fundamentals. We are going to look at some topologies, tables, visuals, but most of everything learning about the concepts. So let's go ahead and start with the lesson today. Let's go, let's go. Okay. So this is the agenda that we have to cover today. At this moment, we have introduction to NTP, Syslog fundamentals, SNMP basics, some use cases, topologies, and a summary of events. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear the board and continue moving forward on this one. Okay, so let's go with the introduction to NTP, the Network Time Protocol. That will be the definition for this one. Basically, what it does is that it will help us synchronize clocks across devices. That is the functionality of this protocol, NTP protocol. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear the board and continue moving on. What else do we have here? Well, how how does NTP works? We have the accuracy within milliseconds, the client and server model, and the stratum levels. So basically, there are some servers with the best possible times and they synchronize the information and is very accurate. And those are special watches per se or timers that have the best possible times around the globe. That's where the NTP information comes from and it updates our network devices, routers, switches, firewalls, different devices. Let's go ahead and move on with this one. Now, how do we configure NTP, boys and girls? What do you think is the best option? NTP configuration on Cisco devices. We're going to mainly focus on Cisco. The first command is NTP server and the IP address, and then NTP update calendar. Those are the two commands, and we will go over this in the Packet Tracer Lab later on, explaining step by step how to configure correctly NTP on Cisco devices. Okay, let's go ahead and clear the drawings and let's continue moving on. Okay, now we have another concept, and it is actually Syslog, an introduction to Syslog. Definition is that this is a login protocol, and what it does is that it collects event messages from devices. That's what it does. Okay, let's clear the board. Syslog message format. We have facility, the severity levels from 0 to 1. We will go into deeper detail on those in a moment. And the message content. Okay. That's pretty much it. So when we're talking about the syslog messages format, we have the integration of facility, the severity levels from 0 to 7, and the message content information. We will analyze all of these concepts deeply in a moment to understand better what are those severity levels. Let me clear the board. Okay, syslog deployment. Devices send logs to a centralized syslog server. Syslog configuration on Cisco devices. We have login, host, and the IP address. Login trap information. Okay, that's interesting. The login trap information, pretty much important. That's basically like a warning message that we will receive after configuring our devices, and they start synchronizing correctly. Okay, let's continue moving on. Okay, SNM, SNMP, Introduction to SNMP. Simple Network Management Protocol. Basically, this one is a protocol that helps us monitoring and managing devices. Let's go ahead and clear the board for a moment and let's analyze the architecture. So it will be traveling via internet or intranet. And basically everything starts with an SNMP manager. Then we have the integration for the NMS and the software SNM, SNM, SNMP manager software. Okay, then we have the SNMP commands, and the traps are traveling with responses. Finally, it integrates with our routers, switches, and different networking devices with an agent device. We will have a database table called the MIP and the SNMP agent software. All of these interacts together and help us to get those warning messages, notifications of what is happening with our different network devices. And that's just a little bit of the architecture of SNMP. Basically, it's the integration that we have between the agent devices, routers, switches, whatever, and the SNMP manager. Of course, we have the database MIP, the agent software as well, the SNMP manager software, the NMS, and the manager integration. The manager integration. All of this is traveling via internet and intranet, and it will give us monitoring information of our different devices. That's a little bit about the architecture for SNMP. Okay, let's move on. What are some of the components that we have for SNMP? We have the manager, we have the agent, we have the management information base. That's the database I was talking about, which is known as the MIP. And we already analyzed the architecture, so we have a better idea of how the components plug together and they work together. That's basically what we have now. Okay, let's continue moving on. Some of the versions that we have SNMP version 1, the basic, SNMP version 2, the community strings, and SNMP v3, version 3. That's the secure authentication and encryption. Those are the SNMP versions that we currently have. Okay, let's continue learning about and how do we get these messages exactly. First, we have I get, then it becomes a set. Finally, we get a trap, and at the end, we get an inform. So the first thing we get is the set option. The get is like a request for the message. Then we get the set. Then continuously we've got the trap. And finally, the information or the log message per se. Great. Let's go ahead and clear the board and let's continue learning a little bit about the configuration. For Syslog devices, SNMP configuration, we configure the following way. SNMP-server, community public, RO, SNMP-server, enable traps. That's the basic configuration to start adding SNMP to our different devices. Okay, let's continue learning about SNMP. So we have studied a little bit about Syslogs, SNMP, NTP, and the different functions that they have. We studied the purpose, the different protocols, and the use cases. That's a little bit of what we have been studying so far. Let's go into a little bit deeper and try to understand possible real life examples about them. Let's clear the board. So this is an integration example. NTP timestamp. When we're talking about NTP timestamps, syslogs, then we have the SNMP alerts aligned with these logs. What else do we have here? Let me clear the board for this one. Some security concerns or considerations. NTP, these are authorized servers. Syslog is working with the TLS protocol, the security protocol. And finally, SNMP v3 encryption. Those are different protocols that help us monitor successfully the devices, the network devices. Some troubleshooting best practices per se. Check the time synchronization, review logs, monitor trap, and their responses. These are some of the troubleshooting tips that we recommend. Always validate that your devices are synchronizing correctly with the best time, review log events, and monitor trap and responses. Great. Let's continue moving on. Talking about best practices and more recommendations. Redundant NTP servers, centralized Syslog servers, and we recommend to use only SNMP v3 only. Okay, that's a little bit of redundancy per se, but we get the idea. In summary, NTP help us with the synchronization of time, Syslog with the login messages, and SNMP for monitoring networking devices. Great. Then this is the first example of an NTP topology that we have here. We have a server. Let's just draw that server there. And that server has different clients. We have client 1, client 2, and client 3. And the NTP server help us with that time synchronization, basically. It's very accurate. Okay, then we have a syslog server. As an example, it connects to device 1, 2, and 3. And it will help us with the syslog messages, all the login messages that we will receive information from. Okay, so alarms can be related to these syslog messages. Maybe let me just think about a possible real life example. Maybe the interface when shut down, we execute a shutdown command on an interface and we receive a message like interface is down. We receive a similar message to this one, and it is created by the syslog server, the configuration that we added to our networking devices, and the synchronization between the different devices. Great. Let's continue moving on. Okay, give me just a moment because the slide is not changing, so I need to figure out what is going on here. Okay, let me just clear the drawings and try to see what is happening because when I try to change it, it's kind of stuck. So let me just go over the presentation again, do an F5 over here, and let's move on. Let's move forward. Okay, what was the last part that we were working on? The examples. Okay, we have the last example. SNMP manager. It is also a server. We are working along with this, and we have a server that is providing SNMP services, and it connects to an agent 1, an agent 2, and an agent 3. It synchronizes all the information, and it will give us the traps, all the traps. And we are going to analyze the syslog security levels in a moment and what they exactly mean and how they work. So let's go ahead and clear this board for now. And let's continue moving on. Okay, what do we have here? Let me highlight this like with a blue color. It will be a green color. Yellow color, I'm sorry. Okay, we have the different levels in this case. And this is the alert level, which is actually number 1. The critical level is number 2. The error level is actually 3. The warning is 4. Now notice emergency message is actually level 5. The informational emergency message is actually level 6. And the book message is actually level 7. So if you have an exam question and something along the lines of what is the what is the level 2 in the Syslog severity levels, from the Syslog severity levels, what is the name of that Syslog emergency message? It will be, in this case, critical. Another question. What is the level 5? This is log severity level messages. What is the emergency if we are working alone with level 5 on devices? It will be notice, and so on. What is the level 6 for this log severity levels um, on emergency messages? That will be informational, level 6. Basically, you have to memorize those for the exam, the certification exam, and be attentive. It could happen at any moment. Any question related to this is very important to become familiar with them and memorize them. Yeah, that's pretty much. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, final closure. We're going to talk about, let me just look for the pencil so I can share with you, boys and girls, the SNMP version comparison. So we have version 1, version 2, and version 3. Some of the features that we currently have for this are basic monitoring, community base, and advanced features. With basic monitoring and version 1, we basically have no security. That is version 1. With version 2, we have a weak security. It's called community base. That is the feature that we currently have. And finally, we have version 3, which is the advanced features. And we have authentication plus encryption on this one. So I think we have covered all of the basic concepts regarding SNMP, NTP, and Syslog messages. I I want to congratulate you for taking the time to learn about these concepts. And in the next class, we are going to do some packet tracer and commands, create our own topology, and start seeing the way these concepts behave in real life scenarios. So my name is Cesar. It's been a pleasure. Until next lesson, boys and girls, take care, and I see you around. Goodbye.